RNMD is a show about hospital relationships from the perspective of doctors and nurses. You're very smart, and we know that you would never come to a podcast for medical advice. So obviously, call your non-podcasting doctor and nurse team if you need any medical care. Oh, and we should also mention that we don't represent any hospital at all. Ever. Okay, start the thing. Hello, everybody, and welcome to another episode of RNMD, a show about doctors and nurses working together in this mad world of medicine. I'm Abby, your nurse host, and the reason why I'm doing the intro today is because we have a really special surprise. We have Dr. BedsideRoundz, who came on the podcast to chat with us, and we were so excited. He's one of my favorite people, and he has been for a long time. He is the kind of person that if I tell him, hey, I'm having a problem with the audio for this podcast, he'll jump on Zoom and try to help me out, just because that's the kind of guy he is. He's so thoughtful in everything that he says. And we can go from... You'll see in this episode talking about like chit-chatting and talking about like funny things or weird patient experiences we've had to really serious topics. And we sort of did all of that here. And that's one of the reasons why he's such a lovely person and why he's so beloved. So anyway, I hope you guys enjoy this episode. Hopefully we'll have him on more in the future because I just love talking to him. Anyway, okay, here we go.
All right, today we have a very special guest on our show. He's our first guest. He's very well known on Instagram with his meme account, BedsideRoundz.
With a Z.
With a Z.
That's right. Instagram, Twitter, TikTok, YouTube.
You're on TikTok.
Twitch.
Wow.
Yeah, I started TikTok recently. So
nice.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
And now he's on RNMD.
That's right. And now guest interviewer for the RNMD podcast. Thanks for having me, guys.
Definitely.
Thank you so much for coming on.
Thank you so much. I'm so excited to have you. I've been waiting for this like all week. I'm so excited.
Good. It feels like the right day because I just finally got the first quarantine cut after 4 months. So
oh my God, yeah.
I feel the most normal that I've felt in months, actually. So
you know what's funny? I got my hair cut today for the first time since, way before quarantine. I get my hair cut like every 6 months, and then quarantine just happened to happen when I needed a haircut, and then I haven't got mine cut, and I got mine cut today too. So haircut nice. Buddies. Yeah.
Daniel, can we see your hair, by the way?
Oh.
It's hidden under these giant headphones over here.
Okay. So Abby
you have
cut...
great hair, man.
Oh, you heard that?
Yeah.
You hear what she said, Abby? You hear what he said? Thank you so much.
Abby cut Dan's hair.
Yeah, she gave me this haircut.
It's a little uneven.
Is it?
No. I think it looks good. Thanks.
I like it, man.
It's uneven.
I envy people that have nice thick hair like that. So nice.
If those of you who can't see our guest, he says beautiful, shiny head.
Yeah, almost like the cartoonized image on my profile pic.
Exactly. Yeah.
Oh, exactly.
So wait, let's address that really quickly. So you're going to stay anonymous, right?
Here or on Instagram or what?
In general, what's your plan?
What's your 5-year plan?
So world domination doesn't happen anonymously, you guys. Okay. So eventually people have to know who I am. I mean,
okay.
Look, this has been a weird evolving thing. I didn't have any intentions of having a Instagram account that had some degree of influence or a platform. And actually, it was about a year ago when I first opened it. Before Instagram, my goal was to be able to achieve some degree of opportunity to make the healthcare system better. And actually, for me, what I want to do in medicine is three things. One of them is my clinical work, and I'm super interested in cardiology, and particularly in the worst cases of cardiology, the advanced heart failure and the resuscitation and critical care and that kind of stuff. LVADs and Impellas and ECMO, etc. There's the medical education component. That's part 2. And then part 3 is Health 3.0, which is improving our healthcare system overall to deliver better care. Because it doesn't matter how good one individual person or one individual facility or a team may be, people are slipping through the cracks all the time, even before this pandemic, and that's always bothered me. And I think there are plenty of low-budget solutions, and with technology, things should be so much better than they are. I got reposted by Evie on Nurse Life RN.
I didn't know that.
Back in August of last year.
Oh.
And in 48 hours, I went from 400 followers to 10,000. Wow. That was really crazy. And then from then, it just kind of became, well, now I have this thing here. How do I use it? By the way, I'm going to answer the question of whether I'm anonymous or not. I'm going to get there, okay?
Okay.
It took me
months. This episode is titled World Domination, by the way.
Yeah.
Yeah. The 3 E's. That's what my Instagram account is. The 3 E's. Entertain, educate, and empower. Mm-hmm. So if I'm at my best using my Instagram account, I'm able to hit all 3 with the same content. But otherwise, you're going to get some overlap of one of those 3 things. That's kind of what I aim for. And then with the other platforms, what I decided is I'm going to treat each BedsideRoundz, the persona of content, is going to be a little bit different on each platform. And so on Instagram, it's going to be primarily staying with memes. And, I do some stuff on the stories. I repost other people and I give my thoughts and that kind of thing. Twitch is audio, and I'm going to do some interactive education there. And it's kind of really an open platform for me. I haven't put much time into it yet. Twitter is where I write things and then I meme them. I meme my own Twitter posts. Discord became unexpectedly a family of healthcare workers. Essentially, it's if I was able to open up my DMs to where everybody could interact with everybody else. And then we have channels, and we have all kinds of people who are supporting each other. And it's kind of on its own. I can't keep up with all of the conversations happening there, but 200 plus members on that of people talking to each other. And then actually TikTok, which I decided I am going to use it as the most the platform where you get the most of actually me. So you're going to get my face, you're going to get my voice, I'll be talking on it. So at some point, I suppose people that follow me closely enough are going to be able to connect me in real life to this account. But I kind of want to be able to use this to continue to influence is out there for me to use. I don't want to waste it. I want to be able to capitalize on and make things better. So there's limits to how much you can do anonymously, which I kind of joke referenced with the world domination thing. But in reality, if you really want to be a part of the solution, you need influence, you need a platform. Yeah, it has to be the real life version of you. So that being said, please call me Michael if you want to.
Okay.
Because that is my name.
Not Dr. Roundz.
You can call me Dr. Roundz if you want. But Michael is me, so that's okay. And gradually I'm going to open up more and more. I'm a little bit afraid of what's going to happen if someone tries to dox me through my workplace and that kind of stuff. But
exactly.
Generally, I'm trying to stay true to the things that need to be said without sort of exposing myself to hatred. So
Yeah.
sounds easier than it is, but yeah.
Let's talk about doxing for a second.
Okay.
How do you feel about that? I've seen it happen. It happened recently with a doctor. I don't know if we should name names, but
well,
yeah. I don't want to
The thing is, it's like this. For me, people have been acting the same way for a long time. It's just suddenly light is reflected on a certain part of their personality, and then it kind of becomes more publicly known. But they have been that way for a long time. So this person that we're not mentioning, I think it's kind of revealing what their perception of healthcare roles is, and the relative value, perhaps, of the nursing field in general, and how important nurses are to patient understanding. When I come in there for 5 minutes, I'm like, hey, this is heart failure. Let's say I go the extra mile and I draw
a picture,
a simplified heart on the whiteboard with a pump and dilated left ventricle and congestion in the lungs, and then an arrow down to the legs and swollen. Let's say I do it all.
Which we love, by the way. We talk about them like, oh, who's a better artist? Yeah.
Well, not me, but when I walk out of the room, for the remaining 12 hours and for the remaining several days, it's going to be that reinforcement and the primary education on the nursing side. So whatever this person was trying to say, it was lost in translation. But the point I'm saying is this. The filter was missing to recognize the way that that's going to come across. And that says to me that this person actually does not see nurses in this way at all, because this person is a almost celebrity status physician. And I don't think they would have put out this take, if they really knew better. So I don't know. Yeah. But doxing in general, I don't like it. When physicians make complete asses of themselves online, on Twitter, on Instagram, or whatever, I just, as a general policy, I don't give them any airtime. Sometimes I'll indirectly reference it and kind of model what I think is right, which is usually the opposite of what they do.
Yeah. I think the doxing is a problem in and of itself, just because it creates this culture where also people don't feel free to speak because they're afraid that whatever they're trying to say is going to be perceived wrong. So, for example, I crowdsource a lot for information and for topics. Hey, what kind of problems do you have with doctors? What kind of problems do you have with nurses? I get nurses 100%. But I don't get a lot of doctors saying anything bad because I think they're very afraid of it being screenshotted and now it's circulated. And so they're just going to say nothing. And that doesn't help the problem either, right? Because there is a problem.
Yeah. And Daniel, you probably relate to this, but I have seen other people permanently damage their career because of saying something as a physician. Just one sentence, whether it was taken out of context or not, can damage an entire career in medicine. And I know of people that have had poor judgment in social media that got kicked out of medical school, got severely punished or removed from residency programs because of that kind of stuff too. Daniel, you're nodding. I'm assuming.
Oh, I've heard of this.
I don't know how that goes.
I wouldn't say only people in medicine would understand, but there is a certain understanding within the medical community, whether it's medical school, residency, or in an academic institution where you're under scrutiny to some level. And every action you take could be, scrutinized more carefully than perhaps other people would.
Yeah. Abby, the pressure on a physician to minimize the risk of being sued for giving the wrong information or for mistreatment of a patient. And I'm certainly not going to complain about being a male, but the appropriate degree of heightened spotlight on male physician behavior towards anybody else. This stuff is kind of drilled into our minds in terms of the way that we have to be. And Daniel, I'll go to you again. I personally have had experiences where I write something and it just has this hint of being incriminating towards another physician. When I was in training in residency because as a student, no one gave a shit about my notes, but in residency. And my attendings really didn't like that, and they delete all that stuff. They take it out of the note.
Wow.
You don't want to, you don't want to say something that's make somebody else look bad, and you cannot say anything that makes you look bad. So that's drilled into us during training.
Definitely. Abby, how about you? From your end on the nursing side, do you feel the same way?
No, I don't feel the same way. And I don't think nurses are aware of this problem, to be honest with you. I never heard of it until we started talking more about this. I think with nursing, you may be fired. I've heard of nursing like Instagram accounts who have been fired for posting maybe HIPAA or too much information about their institution, but never completely canceled. Like you can find a job somewhere else. So that's the big difference between you guys and us, definitely.
Can I ask, when we do credentialing for hospitals, we have to say if we've ever had our credentials revoked, if we've ever applied to a hospital and not been accepted and that kind of stuff, even if it doesn't enter legal territory. These kinds of things, you legally have to report it on your credentialing for hospitals. Is that the same on the nursing side?
We have to say every time you renew your nursing license, you have to say if you've been had any kind of action taken against you legally as a nurse, if you've had any kind of drug convictions or any kind of physical assault convictions. All of that is part of like your license renewal. I think there is when you're applying to a new hospital. Have you ever had your license revoked before?
Yeah, but just something as simple as hospital privileges, if those are revoked, nothing is ever legally involved there. Just privileges being revoked, it's going to get, you'll have to answer yes or no and then fill out paperwork to explain. It's not just that hospital credentialing and hospital paperwork, healthcare paperwork is such a disaster in general, but also it just, you can't really outrun that, so it's going to be there. So we all really don't want to ever get fired from a job as a physician. Also, reputation is important too, so we're all very careful about ending up with a bad reputation. It's terrifying to think about if I say something and someone runs a negative article about me with my name and my face.
Right.
I don't know what I'm going to do in that situation. It's not good.
Physician reviews even are terrible. It can be terrible.
Yeah. I have found, you're talking about the website
and stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah. I made myself feel okay with those because I found that some of the worst physicians can have good scores and then some of the best can have bad ratings. And a lot of times it comes down to, are you filling out the prescription of the medication and the amount that a person is wanting, and if not, they go angry.
Right.
They click 1 star out of 5 or whatever.
Absolutely.
So, yeah, I'm good with having a 1-star rating on those things because I think generally people know your work. And in fact, I'll tell you, Abby, like if you have a patient who's nervous about something they need to get done in the hospital, and then the person that's going to come and see them is actually somebody that you think is really good, aren't you going to say, I just want to let you know, Dr. So-and-so is coming and they're one of the best that I've ever worked with, right?
Definitely.
Yeah, word of mouth really matters. And I found that to be a lot more meaningful than ZocDoc or whatever.
Yeah. Okay, wait. So it's July.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We're
What's
here.
up?
What does that mean, Abby?
You guys, let's talk about it. Because you know what? Okay, I made a little graphic and I was like, hey, let's just be nice to the interns. And then like 1 million people were like, yeah, great idea. Like they had never heard of it before. So I feel like this is something that needs to be talked about. Like, why are we so mean to interns? They're going through so much. How can we help them? I feel like we need to talk about it.
So for those of you who don't know, July 1st is an important time of the year for hospitals, especially academic hospitals. That's when the new interns come in. They just graduated medical school and they're starting their first year of residency. And now they're doctors. They're brand new, newly minted doctors. And they're coming in, all this enthusiasm. And with all the information they have in medical school, they don't realize how little they actually know. And I think that causes, some problems for them and the people around them. Any thoughts on your end, Michael, and your experiences with that?
Yeah. Well, we also have to acknowledge people could be interns in the same program and have vastly different educational exposures prior to being there.
Mm-hmm.
People could come from the exact same medical school, go into the exact same internship program, and have different third and fourth year medical school clinical rotations and different degrees of comfort level managing things. So we are such a not homogeneous group when it comes to new grad physicians entering their intern year of residency that when people, I keep getting this question over and over again of from nurses saying, what can I do to help the interns? And I wish I had a good answer, but there's no such thing as the interns as a singular group. We are so mixed and different. Some people are almost ready for their second year on day one, and other people need constant supervision, and anything they do is really anxiety provoking for everyone else on the team. I was saying on my Instagram account, in my program, I had this guy who was in his mind he was going to go for radiology from day one. He ended up matching into radiology. He didn't really have much internal medicine training, nor was he passionate or interested in it. So he showed up to his internship completely unprepared to make medical decision making. All he wanted to do was look at screens and images and learn how to read images. It took a lot to get this guy to commit to ordering IV fluids on a patient. It took a lot. A decision that I can make within 2 seconds of being woken up from a deep sleep now was paralyzing in that scenario for that person. So the interns are not really just the interns. So I just wanted to make sure to clarify that. But Daniel, I just want to ask you, do you remember a particular memory from your intern year where you really felt unprepared or overwhelmed, really stupid? Just something that you feel like is a story you could share?
That's a good question. I don't think there was just one time. Yeah, I mean, first year is a really tough year. I think we're very anxious about how much we know and how much we have to learn. It could be really daunting. There were a few times where I felt that way. I'm trying to think of specific examples.
Just before intern year started, it was like the last day of orientation. We just got our white coats really crisp and nice, and I was, feeling really good about myself. I was on the 5th floor. They called overhead code blue, and there was a cardiac arrest on this was a telemetry floor, and I'm standing in the hallway, and you wouldn't believe the way that my overconfidence actually set me up for this. But I was like, it's a coding patient. I'm a doctor, and I have ACLS certification, so I can run this code.
Wow.
Not realizing in the moment that I don't remember a thing about ACLS at all. So I walk in the room, and I think the nurse is there. It was like a charge nurse and other people there. Someone was doing compressions, and I think they were relieved when they saw me walk in.
Of course.
Now, mind you, I'm like a 6'1" guy who probably looks more confident that they are at any given time. So I walk in with this totally unearned, obnoxious confidence. My white coat, and the nurse sees me and says, "Are you going to run this code?" And then I froze. I was thinking, what does it mean to run a code? What do I say?
Yeah.
What do I do? I hadn't even seen the patient yet. It was like a double room, and there was a curtain. I was just kind of right in the beginning of the doorway. But I was silent for like a really long 5 to 10 seconds. And then the nurse just basically walked away from me, ignored me, and went back to try and figure it out. And I was like, this is it. Like, either I know something or I don't. It doesn't matter that in my 4th year of medical school, I was heavily coached and handheld through ACLS training to where I fulfilled the testing requirement and passed it and got my card that says ACLS. I actually was on the hook for being able to run it. And actually many nurses are ACLS, and maybe they have the same realization, like, yikes, do I really know the ins and outs of the H's and T's of cardiac arrest? And do I have an order of drugs that I'm going to give?
We just had this conversation that I'm ACLS and I'm in the ICU now, and I don't know.
So I learned if I'm going to survive in this role where I'm now expected to be a decision maker, I can't pretend anymore. Mm-hmm. I mean, it was good that I was willing to put myself in that situation. Mm-hmm. But how inappropriate to do that without actually knowing for sure if I knew what I was doing. It's like, it's very red flaggy kind of behavior for me. So now when I get medical students, I do really uncomfortable scenarios with them because I don't want them to be in that intern scenario that I was. And actually, I would say this as a message to any interns that are listening. You have to kind of keep your eyes open and make a mental list of scenarios where you will be required to make medical decisions before help arrives. And the first 4 minutes of ACLS running a code for cardiac arrest is one of those times. And night shift, there's a lot of those things. How do you want to respond to abnormal vitals? What's your approach for getting a phone call that the blood pressure is high? What's your approach to getting a call that there's a fever, altered mental status, agitation, psychosis? Like, what are we doing in all of these things? Low blood pressure, what are we doing in that situation? What is the threshold for giving up with the phone call and saying, forget it, I'm coming to the bedside, I'll see you in 2 minutes, I'm going to come in and stand there with you, we'll figure it out together, versus I can try and just ask for info on the phone and make those decisions. It's not too early as an intern to start figuring out those things and find the holes in your knowledge so that you can plug those gaps as early as possible. Those are the opportunities as an intern, and there aren't many, but those are the opportunities where you can show competence and really earn the trust of your seniors, your attending faculty, and very importantly, the nursing staff that's going to save your ass day after day, especially if they like you and they trust you and they appreciate you. So the reason I bring up my discomfort with the code was a call to learning to know how to run a code and think about other scenarios where you might be the only one there for a period of time. And what are you going to do in that situation? Start working on that.
I was on not night shift. I was on a long call. That means my shift ends around 8 or 9. And right before I was leaving, I get called like, there's a patient in the ED and they're having multiple episodes of syncope. And I was like, all right. So I go, oh, and they're like, oh, by the way, her QT is 6:32. And I'm like, okay, whatever. I go down and see her. I look at the pacer. I look at the monitor, and she's going into VT, like long run of VT. And I promptly like print it because the alarm went off, and I print it out, and it's like clearly torsades, like clearly. And I'm like, holy shit, like what the fuck do I do? And this was like a perfect time where you were asking, like, do I know what I'm doing? At that moment, I'm like, what do I do? You know what I mean? Like, what is going? I couldn't believe it.
I had a code in my second year that was torsades, and I was there for like 6 minutes before anyone else showed up.
Oh my God!
This is a theme because my colleagues in my class. I mean, remember, I had no upperclassmen, no seniors, and the people in my class were very much like mousy and like shying away from high-risk medical situations. So they wouldn't even show up if they called overhead for a code a lot of the times. And you know, the size of that hospital with the ER doc just wasn't there yet. So I'm there running the code, and then I'm looking at the defib monitor, and it says torsades. And then I was like, that's torsades.
That's crazy.
And then I was like, give mag, I think. Yeah.
Yeah.
So I was like, we need to give mag. And so the nurse pulls open the med drawer in the crash cart. There's a vial of magnesium. She says, how much? And I was like, I don't know, actually. So just a second, I get my Maxwell guide out. I'm looking for ACLS. I think I find torsades. It says magnesium sulfate. In mine, it didn't say how much.
Oh, shit.
And I was
God.
I was like, just draw some up. And then I'm on my cell phone Googling how much magnesium to give in torsades. I think I found maybe on Hippocrates or something, or Up to Date. It's like 2 to 4 grams from my memory. And I was like, how many is in that thing? And she's like, there's 4 grams. And I was like, just give the whole thing.
Yeah, there's 4 grams for a reason, right?
Yeah. So let's just leave it all. And she did, and that I think that plus like the other things we're doing, we got to post back on this case. But
wow.
I mean, that was an intern year, but
that's really scary. Wait,
that is scary.
Yeah.
How do you work if you don't have anyone above you? How did that work if you're the first class?
It's me and the attending. And in our residency setup, our attendings weren't staff hospitalists. They were outpatient internal medicine providers. They would come in the morning and round on their patients and then leave, go back to their office and see a full panel of patients every day. And so, you know, we had rounding at 6:15 in the morning. And then they were, the program director at the time was out of the hospital by 7:30 a.m. And most of the daytime nurses didn't know what he looked like even. They just knew his name because he was in and out at the very end of night shift, and that's it.
Yeah.
So there was a lot of times where I was alone. And I learned that, and I don't really know how to coach this. I've tried, and I haven't really succeeded. There's 2 different ways to not know what you're doing. One way is a way that's like, I don't know, but I'm going to figure it out, and I'll work with it with you. The other is like, I don't know, and I'm a dumb idiot, and it's really awkward and embarrassing for everybody. I think generally I've managed to land on the I don't know what I'm doing here, but I'm going to figure it out, and then people don't lose faith or credibility in me. I don't know why. But I tried to coach interns the coming years. Like, if you don't know what you're doing, you have to admit that you don't know what you're doing.
Right.
And then someone took that to heart. And then I'm in the ICU the next day, and the ICU nurse is like, what's with these interns? This guy sucks. He said he doesn't even know what he's doing.
That's not how you do it.
That may be my fault. I'm sorry. Like, please work with this guy, teach him, and like help him, But
you know what? I'll be honest with you. I'm like a mixture of both of those things because I had trach and vent experience, but I did not have critical care experience. It was more like LTAC, stuff like that. So when COVID happened, I mean, obviously everybody in New York City was desperate for ICU trained, vent trained nurses. So, I was asked, do you feel comfortable coming in and helping out? Which I did. And I did do that. And it was one of those things like I've never been in an ICU before. I never worked here before. I will figure it out. And I mean, part of that is knowing what you don't know, right? Like, I don't know, like when I came in, I didn't know pressors. So I was like, I don't know pressors. And I just told them that, like, hey, if I have a problem with this, you're going to have to come help me because I don't know how to titrate this, So it was like, I'll figure it out, but I'm also going to figure it out by telling other people, I don't know this, and you're going to have to help me because I'm also here helping you. So
yeah,
that's true. Though. I think, Mike, what you're saying is really important because to really get to learn something, you have to kind of admit to yourself that you don't know. Because if you keep telling yourself, oh, I know, then you're not really opening yourself up to learning. And that's a big part of learning is the curiosity built from not knowing.
Mm-hmm.
I feel.
I would much rather, if I was sick and needing care, I'd much rather receive care from somebody who knew a lot less, but understood well the boundaries and limits of their knowledge and asked for help, than somebody that knew a lot more and was a cocky piece of shit about it. Right. And thought that they were above getting help.
Definitely. And nursing trusts those doctors so much more. If I have a doctor look at me and say, actually, I don't know the answer to that, I'm like, cool. Like, that's awesome. Like, please, when you know, let me know, anybody who like tries to pretend, you can call that person out in 1 second. I'm like, okay, you don't know and you're trying to pretend. I don't trust you now. You just broke our trust.
So all new grads, nurses, doctors, please don't pretend in this way. It's one thing to project confidence in front of a patient. Don't lie in that situation either. But projecting confidence is one thing. Don't bullshit with your colleagues if you actually don't know something. Mm-hmm. The safest thing for a patient is to say that you don't know it, and you got to find a way to do it in a way that earns people's confidence instead of eroding it. I don't know, but I'm going to figure it out. Or I can't figure out why this person is having syncope. I'm not sure. I'm going to get help though. That kind of thing.
Yeah, for sure.
Anybody that comes in, like you're saying, that thinks that they know the most on either side is always going to be a problem and not received correctly. So it's just better to like stay nice and kind of stay humble. And when you know stuff, go for it. And when you don't, say it.
Yeah, I actually have a policy about this, which is never say no to a nurse. It's my personal policy.
Really?
Really? I say no sometimes. I got
right. No, if you're going to disagree, you have to find a way to say it that is not no, period. And then that's the end of the discussion. You can say, let me tell you what I'm thinking instead. Or, what happens sometimes is someone will directly ask me for something that in my training seems like not a good idea, but in a group situation, and I will try and say, for example, instead of just saying no, I'll say, I actually have some thoughts about this, and I'll after this group thing, we'll talk about it one-on-one. We'll figure it out together.
Yeah.
There's ways to do it, but if you don't practice that, what's going to happen is, I know what I would be like as a nurse, which is if I had experience and judgment and I was advocating for a patient in some way and I asked for something and the response was no. Mm-hmm. And that's the end of the response. I'd be so pissed, you guys.
Yeah.
And not only would I be pissed, I would not want to ask that doctor for other things in the future. I'd be like, fuck that guy. He's not
Definitely.
gonna.
He's a dick.
He doesn't talk to me. He's not gonna explain why.
Yeah.
He just says no. He doesn't trust my judgment. He doesn't ask me why I think that way.
Yeah.
It's just no.
Yeah.
So it's really hard, and I've actually been burned for it on the other side from being so loyal to not actually just saying no, period. I mean, sometimes if someone's got a syringe in their hand and they're going to inject atropine for a heart rate of 200 instead of adenosine, like I'm going to say stop.
Right. Yeah.
But in 99% of interactions, I'll tell you, like, nurses haven't heard me say no. They'll hear me say, let me show you these labs, or like, let's talk about this. It takes more time. It pays me back time and everything else on the back end, because nurses are coming to me and bailing me out and telling me all this helpful information. And I feel like patient outcomes benefit as a result of it.
Absolutely.
Definitely.
Yeah. I think that's such a good point. I don't think a nurse ever expects you to agree with him or her 100% of the time, right? I don't expect, because there's a reason why we have different roles, and you have a different background, and that's why I'm coming to you with this question. So yeah, I might be off base, right? But if I feel heard, if I feel like you understood why I came here, and then you explained to me, actually, this is why we actually thought of that, but then this is why we decided this, right? I'm like, oh, okay. First of all, I was heard, so I feel respected as a person. And also I know my patient is safe, because I know you guys have already addressed this and it's not a problem, right? So, yeah. I mean, that's a really good approach.
I like it.
Opinion.
Yeah. I totally know what you mean. It's not about no, it's more about like showing the other healthcare provider that their ideas, their opinions are noted. They're considered. Mm-hmm. And you're not just saying no without hearing what they're saying. You're saying that I understand what you're saying. And I'm taking it into consideration. And actually, maybe yes, but maybe in this particular situation, it's not what's the best decision. So
not at this time.
I know what you're saying. Definitely.
If all you have to say is no, and you can't explain why, number one, you're pulling rank, which is a really weak move.
Yeah.
Number two, you don't actually know why, and you need to confront that about yourself. Sometimes you confront it by saying, I don't exactly know why, but I feel like I'm not comfortable committing to that. Let's hold off, or like something along those lines, instead of just, no, we're not doing it. I hate when people try and pull rank or just jam some sort of request or order through because they are the doctor.
Yeah.
MD is my decision. Like, no, that's not. If you don't act like the leader of the team, and by leader, I mean you are below and everybody else is above you. If you don't act that way, you're going to have a rough time. People are going to enjoy watching you crash and burn.
Definitely. And they're going to hang you out to dry and then like watch the show.
You're not going to get that important call. Yeah. What you're going to hear overhead is rapid response. Mm-hmm. You'll be like, oh, wait, that's my patient. What's happening?
Right.
Why am I having so many hard times? Yeah. Why are they treating me this way? It's like, do some work on yourself.
Yeah.
That's true.
Okay. So you did an interview with, is it the do.com?
So the American Osteopathic Association, AOA, they have a website, and their website is called the DO. It's like their online presence. And I think their Instagram is similar to it too. But I think what you're referencing is a phone call I had that was recorded, and then somebody edited that and then published it.
I see. Right? Okay. I want to quote you. Hold on. So they said, what is the most important step to building a good relationship with your nurses? And you said that the nurses are always there to address the needs of the patient. Their work is hard. They have to deal with challenges of difficult personalities. You said you have to be very appreciative. You miss out on really valuable component of a treatment plan if you're ignoring the input of the nurse. You have to empower the nurse. The nurse has to feel comfortable sharing their opinions. Nurses have not been given this opportunity. They need to trust you. Don't dismiss their feelings, their input. I mean, I think that kind of sums up exactly what you just said.
So you know what I'm about. I heard that and I'm like nodding in agreement to you reading somebody quoting me. So yeah, that's all. I'm totally about advocating and empowering people, because that's the only way I can get the best out of everybody and make sure that everything that I miss is going to be covered by somebody else. So as much overlap and support and team building that you can get, respect and appreciate the people you work with. It makes your job easier and it's better for the patients. And nurse morale is always better when nurses feel valued and appreciative.
Yeah, definitely.
I've freaked out some nurses when they call me because they need something, and I say, "What do you want?" It takes they have to work with me for a couple months to get used to that and actually have an idea of what they'd like to try. And then many times, if it's good with me, I'm okay with that, and we'll do that instead.
I used to work with some very old school attendings, like people who would only order in grams and, drams and grams and all this stuff. Anyway, and that was always their move. Like they were just like, what do you think? And I was like a first year, like a brand new nurse. I'm like, I don't know. That's why I'm calling you. Like, I'm like late 640. They're like, okay.
Yeah. Okay. And then if you're a new nurse in that situation and you have a doctor that actually is willing to hear your input, you don't know what to say, ask your colleagues, ask your charge nurse, say, hey, I had this situation. I called the doctor. He says, what do you think?
Definitely.
What would you have said in that situation? So you can learn from other people's clinical experience really easily in that way.
Okay. Wait. So right before, I know you got to go, but I want to say one thing though. I feel like, and I mean, rightfully so, in my opinion, nursing is really close to my heart. So, I mean, nursing has gotten a lot of love this year. And I feel like, especially with COVID, we all deserve a lot of love. So I'm all for it and I love it. But I do feel like some of the interns and the residents, they might not get the same, I see the memes, about July 1st and that kind of stuff. And to be honest with you, I mean, I get the humor in it, but I don't like the underlying tone of it. I think it's kind of mean, and what goes for one should go for another. What goes for nursing, we want to be respected, we want to be valued. I feel like that should go the same for interns and for residents. So, I mean, is there a way that nursing can help with that culture? What can we do to really try to change this problem?
Yeah, I think on a micro scale, if you are able to advocate, if you see something that feels like it's mistreatment and you have the safety in your position and you're backed up to actually voice it, then that helps. I know hospital systems in many places will not support a nurse for speaking up about something that's not okay. And if you're in one of those places, you just have to wait and then catch that intern or resident in a more quiet time and then offer your support to them. It's like you could say, hey, the way that I'm going to say surgeon, the way that surgeon talked to you was not okay. And, he treats us the same way, but that doesn't make it okay. And I'm sorry that happened. And is there some way I could help you? That kind of thing. Just to know that you're not alone in that suffering a lot of times helps, and then eventually the goal is to get to a place where you have safety to speak up and advocate. And then you can really solve bigger problems that way too, which is that was my goal of residency. There was so much shit that happened that I was not okay with and I couldn't say anything. Mm-hmm. Nurses couldn't say anything. It just really, this fire is burning strong even now, going in my third year out of training. I want things to be better. We have to improve cultures. And the people that make memes about that stuff, I understand why they're doing it. It's easy jokes. It appeals to like a base level of feelings that we have had. And, it can feel easy to anonymously just hit like on there or just laugh at it or whatever. But, now we're learning culture is something that we are continuously either holding up the status quo, in this case, bullying and making fun of interns and new grads, or we're a part of the solution. There's nothing in between. Just like you can't be not racist.
Exactly.
You are either anti-racist or you are holding up the system that ensures racism continues to cause racial inequality. It's the same kind of thing.
Definitely. Yeah. I think 2020 is like our come to Jesus moment. Like we all need to like evaluate what is important to us and we need to start fighting for it a little bit. Like sitting by passively when someone abuses someone else in any kind of situation is not acceptable. And we all just need to start speaking up more because there's more of us that care about that than there is people who want to abuse people.
Yeah. There's a lot going on in people's minds. And it's heavy. It's heavy for everybody.
Yeah.
The stress of the pandemic, combined with what's been going on in terms of racism rearing its ugly head, and then all of the looking in the mirror, and then all of the self-learning and listening and reading that goes along with that. It just combines to cause some heaviness. And, for you guys being on the East Coast, particularly New York, you're probably in marathon mode at this point from the pandemic just having been so consistently bad for so long and actually having achieved a surge peak and then now kind of like this, what I'm assuming is a steady low level kind of situation there.
Right.
Whereas on the West Coast, we are seeing things for the first time, and all the stuff that I have learned has been helpful in terms of medical management. But it's those cases that we know don't follow our best expert guidance that it just really messes with you, and then the individual stories and. In my community, there's not a big African-American population, but we do have quite a bit of Hispanic, Latin American, Mexican population. And what we are seeing is they are getting affected more. They are having more cases of illness, and their cases are more severe. We know about this relationship to chronic disease, diabetes, and lung disease, etc. But have we really earned the trust of some of these populations to where we can go to their community and say, here's what you guys need to do to keep yourself safe?
No.
As a medical community, have we earned their trust to where we can just ask for something and then they will just follow? There is mistrust there, but also there's language barriers, and we have to ask in retrospect and going forward, what more do we need to do to level the playing field a little bit? So yeah, a lot of the cases I've seen have been Latin American men.
I mean, we saw that obviously in New York City. We saw the African American, the Black community here was just ravaged. I mean, in comparison, the Bronx, Brooklyn was so much worse than Manhattan and the white communities. And a lot of the white communities in Manhattan actually left. I mean, Manhattan is like empty right now. So
Really?
Yeah, a lot of the people who could get out of the city did. So the people who were left and the people who were sick were the people who maybe couldn't,
Yeah.
I think we are in a specific location within Manhattan, though, where we see almost every demographic.
We
do.
Difficult
to.
Yeah. And the other thing is language barriers are a disaster.
Mm-hmm.
In some of these situations, in an airborne isolation room or area, trying to have discussions over the sound of high flow nasal cannula or a BiPAP machine through an iPad device, through an interpreter.
It's impossible.
Yeah, and then in Oregon, to use remdesivir, it's authorized by the Oregon Health Authority, but it has to be an informed consent sort of process. And so that's a challenge. These people are already here with an O2 sat in the 70s, and we're like wanting to just start stuff and do what's in our toolkit, whether it works or not. You know, people that qualify with renal function and LFTs and stuff. But then we're like, well, we have this, and then also we're doing, I'm not a part of it, but in my system, one of the intensivists is doing a clinical trial with a diabetes medicine, pioglitazone, actually, and to see if it has some sort of anti-inflammatory benefit for the disease process. And that's a second informed consent as well. So it's been tough. Sometimes you call family and you just hope there's somebody who is fluent enough in English to be able to have a conversation over the phone from the nurse's station. It's a lot easier. But I mean, and you guys know this, what this pandemic has done has exposed a lot of the shortcomings in our healthcare system.
Definitely.
Exposed in a really bad way.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, it's things we all knew were a problem. And I mean, there's so much research on this topic, and we talk about it, but really no one ever does anything about it, right? And then when you see a pandemic like this, it's glaringly obvious at this point. I mean, it's not even a question. It's look who's being affected. You can see it. So it's frustrating. Because I feel like there is a lot of research, and it is time and time again, it's a hot topic, but no one really takes any action. And that's really frustrating for me.
What kind of action are you referring to? Or just general?
I mean, I don't know how to solve this problem, but at least where I live, I feel like we definitely could put more money into the healthcare system in some of these other neighborhoods. I mean, if you get sick and you have private pay, or you're at Cornell or something, you're getting significantly better treatment than if you're on Medicare, Medicaid, and you're in Brooklyn or the Bronx. So, or Staten Island, or, you know, so I don't know how to fix that, but it's obviously
talking about inpatient or outpatient?
Both.
Okay.
Yeah, both.
Yeah.
It's just so bad. I mean, I used to work in a clinic. It was a Medicare, Medicaid clinic in Harlem. And the type of treatment, the type of therapy, the lack of testing, I mean, it was just atrocious. I mean, I had to leave. I mean, I did my best. I was there for 2 years, and I tried to work with management, and they offered me a position there to be like the leader or whatever of the nursing staff there, and to do that. And I turned it down. And the only reason was because I didn't feel like I could actually make a difference in that. If I felt like I could have done something, I would have, but the system itself is not receptive because it doesn't make money. So, Dan, do you have any advice for how nursing can help, or is there anything we could do?
I think a lot of it is communication based, not just verbal communication, also nonverbal communication. Because a little bit of an eye roll or a sigh can actually have a lot of effects on someone's relationship with another person. And I think some nurses may have that impression that the new interns coming in are really frustrating, or they feel like they don't know what they're doing, or to their credit, they're coming in like they're running the show. And the nurses have been there for years and years, and all of a sudden this new grad wants to run them around. And the nurses aren't having it, So that's difficult for them to deal with. And I understand. I think they should express themselves in a nice, calm manner and say, hey, give their 2 cents about what they think is going on, because they're more experienced. And I think if they they talk to the intern the right way, they can sway them in the right direction and make them make the right decision.
When I was an intern and resident, I was very much watching what works and what doesn't in terms of how to be, because I just wanted to be the best that I could in my role, and I wanted to let other people have a chance to be the best that they could be too. So we need that feedback and that support. If an intern comes through and they're ridiculous and they're not responding, the chief resident's got to know about it, not like what they did in my program, like, Michael, this new intern, we don't like him. And then that was it. But more like, hey, this person is a bit disruptive here, and like, here's what's happening. And then give me a chance to actually go and like talk to that person and make it better. So, I mean, some people are going to be a-holes no matter what.
Yeah.
But trust me, some people, you cannot fix them. Those interns, I question why they're in medicine. Some people.
That's just a personality thing, I think.
Yeah, some people should not be in medicine. But
and I mean,
everybody
that's not
deserves a
specific
chance.
to doctors. Yeah.
Yes, that's true.
Yeah.
Everyone deserves a chance to get feedback and improve, though.
Yeah.
Thank you so much for that. Those are
really good.
Great points.
Yeah. I appreciate you so much for coming and spending all of your time with us. I mean, it's like, I've been looking forward to this forever. So it's anytime, please, like, let us know. We're happy to have you.
Thank you. It was a pleasure having you on the show. Hopefully we'll have you on again.
I'll be here. Just let me know.
Thank you so much.
All right. Thank you.
Thanks, guys. Be well.
All right. You too. See you soon. Thank you guys so much for listening. We really appreciate it. If you have any comments or topics you want to submit, please send it to us. We're RNMDPodcast at gmail.com. I think that's going to do it for us today.
Okay.
Okay. Bye.
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 Bye.